So I decided to come on and answer your questions. The reason why I answered you like I did is because some people, such as you, and this has always been a question to me: why on earth do some people think Black America is a continent? Black America is not a continent, and that's one of the issues going on here. Black America is not a continent. It's an ethnic group of people, approximately 50 million, approximately, or an estimated 50 million. Okay, so people, it's more accurate to compare Black America to another ethnic group. Okay, now although Black America can function as its own country easily, um, it's still an ethnic group within the United States of America. Okay, so this is what I was talking about when you said Black Americans don't have money to begin with. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean. And then you go on to say the 10 richest Black Americans can equate to the richest Africans' net worth. Okay, I'm gonna allow you to say that. Okay, I'm gonna allow you to say that. Um, again, why would, because of what you're saying, again, why would the African Union even need our buying power then? And see, this is what I'm talking about. Every single one of your comments support what I'm saying. Africa does not need Black America. So why is it that they're pretending to? You should ask yourself the same question. If you say Dangote and other billionaires, I'm assuming that's who you're talking about. I guess I said his name right. And other billionaires on the continent have way more money than Black America, which Black America in total has 5.3 trillion. We're just talking about the 1.7 trillion that Africa, some I guess some in the union or whatever says they want. Why do they even want it? Since they're obviously wealthy. You're supporting what I'm saying. And instead of catching the attitude with me, you're supporting what I'm saying. So I don't understand what your beef is. I don't understand. If you believe Black Americans don't have any money, then you need to not come at me. You need to go to your governments and say, leave Black America alone because they don't have any money. That's what you need to be saying, since you believe it. You don't need to be coming at me angry. It doesn't make, what you're saying doesn't make sense, logical sense. Tell them that instead of having me get on here and tell them that. You tell them that. You go to your government and say, we don't need Black American money. Go to them. Don't get mad at me when I say it. Because I've heard many of you say that Africa does not need Black American money. You, me, and you, we stand together on that. So why are you offended when I say it? We're saying the same thing, except I'm not saying that we don't have any money. You're saying that. I'm saying you can count all the billions y'all have already. So we stand the same. We're standing on the same field here. We're like, okay, why do you need this money? Because Africa is rich. Number one, I'm gonna say something else. So stop, and this whole thing about, I'm gonna say this, right? Africa could have ruled the world. I'm gonna say this flat out. Africa could have ruled the world. Pre-colonialism, there was no global, there were regional powers and people control certain regions. But prior to the colonialism, it was up for grabs. It was up for grabs. And instead of, on the continent of Africa, instead of the leaders actually looking at everyone as African people, though they had disputes as African people, they began to trade people for stuff, whether it was exploitive from the Europeans. I'm not saying nothing happened. Whether it was exploitive from the Europeans, they began to trade human beings, which is long-term wealth. Long-term wealth for stuff. Okay? Those are bad deals. They're still doing it today. How are they still doing that today? And they even did it with the Arab slave trade. You're trading long-term wealth, human beings, for stuff. Now, short-term gain. I talked about birthright, giving up the birthright. And see, Africa is still doing that same stuff, giving up the birthright. Okay, it's not just, and I talked about this as far as Black Americans, but I have learned from the Bible and watching people throughout history, because I like to read history, of how people give up their birthright. And anyone who gives up their birthright is always on the losing end. They lose everything, everything, everything. And this is what Africa has consistently done throughout history. So it's not anybody else's fault. And I can talk about how, first of all, ethnic groups don't own ethnic groups. I'm not talking about government nations. I'm talking about ethnic groups don't own the minerals in Africa. Ethnic groups. They may live on the property. They may have opinions on what happens or whatever, but they don't own it. The government actually owns it. Okay? And sometimes the government, in exchange for short-term gain, gives up that birthright. Okay? Instead of those billionaires you're talking about actually using their funds or untying some of their funds to utilize the engineers that Africa is sending out to other nations, using the engineers and the people there to build up and actually spread the education so that everyone has the skills they need to build it up from within. African leaders have long given up the long-term goal for the short-term gain. This is why them doing this whole tap into the Black American purse is nonsense. It's backwards. Because it's not going to get you anywhere. It's going to hurt African Americans. Doubling back on what you said, since we don't have any money. And then it's going to actually hurt who? Africa. Because you're still tapping into something. You're trying to tap into something that you don't own. But let me say this one, and I'm gonna say this because the video is almost over. I can go on and on for days. But xenophilia, not xenophobia, xenophilia, it has been one of the issues with African leaders. They tend to love, really adore, and nearly worship other stuff from other countries and other peoples instead of loving their own fellow man from within Africa and the African diaspora. They tend to just love it. Xenophilia has been one of the downfalls.